Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and tonight I am going to talk about feline irritable bowel disease, IBD. Now, IBD, irritable bowel disease, is defined as an inflammation of the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and or the colon. There's even some suspicion that feline stomatitis may also be a representation of IBD as an extension of the gastrointestinal tract. And IBD is thought to occur from dysregulation of mucosal responses, which result in inflammation to intestinal microflora changes and or dietary antigens. Now, the symptoms usually include the obvious GI distress, vomiting and or diarrhea that occurs for at least 3 weeks. But the cat doesn't have to have diarrhea to raise the red flag for IBD. It could be something as subtle and not so obvious, such as a sudden change in litter box habits, like pooping outside the litter box or vomiting up fur balls. Yes, fur balls can be an early sign of IBD, and many people think cats upchucking fur balls is a normal thing, but it's not. Cat's digestive system is designed to ingest fur and feathers, so the next time you step on a cold, wet fur ball, you may want to consider your cat may be having some kind of a motility disorder, especially if it's occurring frequently. Now, before deciding it's IBD, we need to rule out a few other possibilities, such as food allergies or intolerance. Studies have shown that 80% of cats are allergic to fish, beef, and dairy products, and food sensitivities may occur for 16% to 65% of diarrhea cases in cats. Then, of course, you have parasites like worms. Then you have the adverse side effects of medications. Then there is plant or toxin intoxications that can lead to vomiting or diarrhea, and endocrine diseases like hyperthyroidism, diabetes, or renal kidney disease, liver disease. And you have FELV, which is feline leukemia, or FIV, which is feline AIDS, immune deficiency, and also coronavirus. Then there is neoplastic growth. It's important to feel around for a mass in the small intestines, and this is important to consider in long-term chronic cases of IBD. Motility disorder is also something to consider, and that's when the stomach contractions and the digestion of food is abnormal. Now, there is a role of gut flora involved here, and a healthy, balanced microbiome will support the immune system, and by competition, it will help exclude transient pathogens that may come in through the mouth via food. The microbiome will also provide nutritional benefits by way of short-chain fatty acids and other metabolic byproducts that help to nourish the gut. 99% of normal intestinal microbiome would typically constitute numerous bacteria in the gut. I mean, there is something like I think 500 species of bacteria in the gut, and tens of thousands of subspecies involved. Recently, it's been found that feline microbiota can be modulated by the amount of soluble fibers and macronutrients. That would be carbs, protein, fat content in the diet. The microbiome also has a major impact on gastromotility, and that's because short-chain fatty acids play an important role in muscular contractions in the stomach. In 2008, there was a study that looked into whether there was a difference between the gut flora of a cat with IBD versus a cat with a healthy microbiome. And what they found was a large imbalance in intestinal flora. cats with IBD had a total of 66% of enterobiacterial bactericide, SPP, in the gut, compared to a healthy cat that had less than 0.3%. And the healthy gut also showed more variety of bacteria, where you'd have Streptococcus SPP, bactericides SPP, and Clostridium SPP, E. coli, and other bacteria. The following is a dog study that is it's relevant to cats. In 2015, this study compared the bacteria in the feces of dogs that were fed processed commercial pet food and a raw meaty bone diet. Researchers were hoping to discredit raw diets by proving that the stool would contain high amounts of gram-negative pathogens like Salmonella and E. coli and so on, thus presenting a health risk to humans. But what they found was the opposite was true. And I'm going to read a little quotation from the study. It was expected that the groups of dogs fed commercial raw diet would have an increase or the presence of enteric pathogenic bacteria as Salmonella, Shigella, Yersinia, and E. coli 0157. However, the results showed that the dogs fed commercial raw diet had similar enteric flora and no pathogenic bacteria was found in the raw group as expected. In other words, the stool of the dogs fed a processed commercial pet food were found to not only contain a number of gram-negative pathogens, but was much, much higher than expected. Now, the role of diet plays an important part. And although IBD has been considered idiopathic, which means they don't know the cause of it, there is evidence that suggests processed pet food plays a big role in the disease. In one study, cats were divided into two groups and were either fed a processed, wet, or dry diet. After 5 weeks, they discovered a dramatic shift in fecal bacterial communities. Bifida bacteria, pronouncing these names of these bacteria is a mouthful, were not present in either the dry food or wet food group of cats. In this study, fecal lactobacillus population was much greater in dry food-fed cats. These results demonstrated that short-term dietary exposure to processed, dry, or wet food leads to a large shifts in fecal bacterial populations that can affect the ability for the cat to process macronutrients in a diet. And this is one of the reasons you see diarrhea in cats when you suddenly change their diet. It's because you're changing the microbiome. So what's in processed pet food that can affect your guts, bacteria, guts, the gut flora? Well, there's a number of things. But one thing I want to bring up is carrageenan. This is a pet food ingredient that you should really, if you're still buying commercial pet food, you really need to look for this. And I've written about this before, and you can find, if you go to my website, you can find the blog where I wrote extensively about carrageenan. But I'll summarize it. About 80% to 85% of canned pet food contain this ingredient. Carrageenan is a seaweed that is alkalized in the processing procedure, and it forms into a sulfated polygalactin. This is important because carrageenan is a major cause of gastrointestinal inflammation in humans. Not only does it cause ulcerations in the GI tract, but it also causes tumors. And carrageenan is used in a lot of products. And it's used as a thickener. Now, from what I understand, it's outlawed in the EU, especially for baby formulas, but it's still used in the USA. And if you go to the health food store, you'll see it there in some dairy products like ice cream or luncheon meats, and even in kitten or puppy milk formulas. And so for the people out there who are bottle feeding kittens and puppies, you might want to check to see if that contains that, because carrageenan isn't something you want to give to our baby animals, and it only takes a small amount to do any damage. Now, stress, I'm going to continue now with something else that can upset the GI tract, and that is stress. And studies have shown stress is a contributing factor in Crohn's disease in humans, and stress signals are received by the brain, triggering transmission by the vagal nerve to the gut. And this can have a large impact on pain associated with IBD in humans. In animals, a study observed that stress releases the hormone corticotrophin, which reduces intercellular protein, which activates interleukins that control bacterial growth in the body. So if you have increased cortisol, then you have reduced proteins and now have decreased control of bacterial growth. Therefore, this is one of the things that can modify the microbiome. Now, treatment. The typical treatment, if you went to your allopathic conventional veterinarian, is because you suspect your cat has IBD, is to give drugs. And one of the drugs they give, of course, is steroids, and they also give antibiotics. I've heard of that being given too. And another thing the veterinarians will also administer is cobalamin, and that's B12, because cats with IBD often have very low cobalamin levels, especially cats with weight loss. But I want to just emphasize a little something else about steroids. It's used to reduce inflammation. Now, inflammation is an immune system response to pathogens, and although inflammation is uncomfortable, suppression of this response actually pushes the disease deeper into the body and makes it more difficult to fix. So what else can you do? Well, if you choose a naturopath, then you're going to look at perhaps herbs or homeopathy. And one of the best ways of treating IBD for your cat is probiotics. It's a blessing to IBD sufferers. I always recommend a soil-based probiotics, so it's important to check the ingredients. There are brands on the market that contain cornstarch and milk proteins, which many cats can be sensitive to, and this will just make things worse. And probiotics can help reduce pathogenic bacteria and intestinal pH. They also help produce short-chain fatty acids as well as lactic acid and acetic acid. Probiotics produce antimicrobials, antivirals, and antibacterial products to fight against bacteria which competes with and or deplete nutrients and can occupy binding sites of bacteria. Herbs can also be used as a prebiotic to add fiber to the diet, such as marshmallow root or slippery elm. And marshmallow root is a feline-friendly herb and can help soothe an irritated gut. What I like to do is add a small amount of dried marshmallow root to some warm, very warm water until I get a mushy mucilage, and I add it to the food. Then there are bitter herbs, they are the key treatment for IBD, and they help to stimulate function and motility of the gastrointestinal tract, increase gastric secretion, they'll normalize digestive function, balance intestinal flora, increase bowel secretions, and antimicrobials. And then there is carmatives, which are usually aromatic herbs and spices and can help with flatulence and pain. And adaptogen and nervine herbs help reduce stress. Withania is an adaptogen herb that also has an anti-inflammatory effect on the gut. And this herb has traditionally been used in India as a treatment for diarrhea in children. And then you have berberine herbs, which are exceptional antimicrobials for the gut and gut dysbiosis. And herbal formulas may also include demucillant, astringent, carminative, antispasmodic, immune support herbal agents, and of course, let's not forget homeopathy. I have used homeopathic remedies successfully to help cats with IBD, and also a raw meaty bone diet. I am a raw feeder. I highly believe in the species appropriate diet, and also in stress reduction, probiotics, homeopathy, and herbs. So yeah, there is a natural way to help your cat with IBD. So anyway, I'm going to end the talk now. If you want more information and more about IBD, you can go to my website, catsanddogsnaturally.com. And good night, everybody. Take care.